Okay, let's just dive right in because honestly, the story was supposed to be over.
Right. The book was closed.
The book was closed, the credits were rolling, everyone was supposed to go home. You lose a generational talent. I mean, literally the face of the sport.
The biggest draw in maybe basketball history, not just women's basketball.
And the script says you rebuild. You're supposed to take a step back.
That's the conventional wisdom, yeah. It's the hangover year. It's a tale as old as sports.
It is.
The superstar leaves, a vacuum is created, and the program just sort of takes a gap year to figure out who they are now.
Exactly. The hangover year.
Yeah.
But you look at the AP poll, you look at the performance on the court, and that hangover just,
It's not there.
it's not there at all.
Yeah.
The Iowa women's basketball team has cracked the top 10.
It's a really remarkable turn of events, and to put a fine point on it, this is the highest ranking this program has achieved since the departure of, well, Caitlin effing Clark, to quote the general feeling of the fan base.
It feels huge. It really feels significant because expectations were, I mean, at best they were mixed.
Oh, absolutely.
There was a lot of wait and see, and let's be honest, probably a fair number of people tuning in just to see if the car would crash without its main driver.
The implosion watch was definitely a real thing, but the reality we're seeing on the floor is a team that isn't just surviving, they look dominant.
They do. We need to figure out how they've reinvented themselves so fast. We're not just looking at the box scores. We need to get into the, the DNA of this new team.
Exactly. Who are the players driving this? What is this new normal for Iowa? And later on, we're going to get into a fantasy GM segment, which I'm really excited about.
Me too. But let's start with this vibe shift, because looking at the sources, it's not the Caitlin Clark show with a supporting cast anymore. This looks and feels like a real, cohesive top 10 unit.
It's a complete geometry change. The offense, it used to be heliocentric, right? Everything orbited around one massive sun. Now, it's more of a constellation. And in the research we're looking at, someone made this really fascinating comparison.
Right.
They drew a parallel between this Iowa team and the Yukon Huskies dynasties.
Whoa, hold on. Before everyone listening spills their coffee, because comparing anyone to Yukon is dangerous territory.
It's usually hyperbole, I know.
It is. So we need to be very, very specific about which Yukon dynasty we are talking about here.
Right. Context is absolutely key. If you just throw out the name Yukon, people's minds immediately go to the Breanna Stewart era.
The Stewie years, the, 100-game winning streak?
Exactly. And we have to be clear, this Iowa team is not that. Those Stewie years felt like an inevitability.
Yes.
You walked into the gym and you just knew, mathematically, spiritually, physically, you were going to lose by 30.
It was over before the tip-off.
It was. That was an aura of invincibility. This is not what we are seeing with Iowa right now.
Okay, so if it's not the Stewie era, what is it?
Yeah.
Because the comparison in the source material was very specific.
The source suggests this feels much more like the Nafisa Collier, Katie Lou Samuelson, and Gabby Williams era of Yukon.
Okay, I see that.
Yeah.
And for those listening who might not remember the nuance there, because let's be honest, Yukon has so many dominant eras and it all kind of blurs together. What's the real distinction?
The distinction is the assumption of victory versus the guarantee of victory. In that Collier and Samuelson era, they were mortal. They could lose. We actually saw them lose. But everyone, the fans, the media, their opponents, just sort of assumed they were going to win.
Right.
They had this aura of just systemic competence and execution where you trusted them to figure it out and get the job done.
So it's less about being like alien basketball overlords and more about just being a machine that always works.
Precisely. And Iowa has reclaimed that aura. It's that sweet spot. Victory isn't guaranteed, but they're playing with a kind of swagger that suggests they expect to win every single night.
And sitting there at number 10, the sources say they look every bit worth it.
They do. This isn't a fluke ranking. It's not based on past glory or poll inertia. They are playing like a top-tier squad.
Which brings us to the how, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't just replace 30 points a game with vibes and swagger.
Not at all.
You need production. You need points on the board. And the engine room of this team, there are some fascinating stories developing there. We have to talk about Hannah Stuelke.
A massive, massive piece of this puzzle. She was just named Player of the Week, and deservedly so. She's really transitioned from being the beneficiary of Caitlin Clark's passing
To being a creator.
To being a creator of her own offense. It's been a huge leap.
It really seems like it. But there's a really interesting layer to her performance that goes beyond just the college game. we have to talk about the WNBA draft stock analysis.
Yes, it's the subtext to her entire season, and it's fascinating. The thing you keep hearing from scouts is that this upcoming draft class is weird.
Weird is a good word for it.
It's a statistically weak class, and it's primarily because of what they're calling the 2002 issue.
Okay, break that down for us. The 2002 issue. Is this about birth years?
It is, yeah. It's a demographic and eligibility quirk. A lot of the top talent that would normally be eligible or declaring is older, or there's a kind of gap in that specific birth year cohort. And then the COVID waivers shifted all the timelines.
Right, so the talent pool is just different.
Completely different. You look at last year, you had these distinct tiers of superstars. You had your Clarks, your Reeses, your Brinks. This year, outside of maybe a Paige Buchers, it's a scramble. It is chaos on the draft boards.
So the chaos is a ladder, to borrow a phrase.
Precisely. And that is where Stuhlke is capitalizing. Because the class is weaker, she is playing her way into a solidified roster spot. And I really want to emphasize the words roster spot.
As opposed to what? Just getting drafted.
There's a huge difference in the WNBA between getting drafted and actually making the team. The league is tiny.
144 spots, that's it.
That's it. Second and third round picks get cut in training camp all the time. We saw it with players like Grace Berger or Taylor Mikesell recently. Great college players, all Americans who just struggle to stick.
Yeah, they end up playing overseas, or they kind of just disappear from the pro radar in the States.
Or they're in those 3v3 leagues trying to stay in shape, hoping for a hardship contract. That's the fringe. But the analysis on Stuhlke right now is that she is viewed as someone who will actually make a roster and play.
That is a massive distinction.
It's everything. She's projected anywhere from the late first round to the early third round. But unlike a flyer pick where a team says, well, maybe she works out, she's seen as a legitimate pro contributor because of her motor and her rebounding.
That has to be a huge motivator. She's not just playing for wins for Iowa, she's playing for a career that suddenly looks very, very tangible.
Absolutely. She's playing for a paycheck.
Yeah.
The financial reality of, I can make this team because the competition is lighter this year is a powerful drug, and she's providing that stability the team needs. But if Stuhlke is the stability, the X factor has been the redemption arc of Addie Deal.
Oh, I love a good redemption arc. And let's be honest, the narrative around Addie Deal was not always this positive.
No, it was not, and we should be direct about that. Before this recent stretch, where she also won Freshman of the Week honors, she was considered a really, really disappointing player.
That's harsh, but I guess when you come in with a lot of hype, that spotlight burns pretty hot when things aren't going well.
It does, and she likely disappointed herself just as much as any fans. There were clear transition issues. The speed of the college game, I mean, it's a shock to the system for almost everyone, no matter how good you were in high school.
The windows close faster.
The defenders are stronger, the windows close faster, yeah. She was just struggling to find her footing.
So what changed? Did the game finally slow down for her, or did she change something specific?
It looks like a bit of both, but primarily it was a positional shift.
Okay.
In high school, she was a combo guard. She always had the ball in her hand. She was initiating offense. At the collegiate level, that just wasn't working. She couldn't turn the corner on Big Ten defenders consistently.
So they moved her off the ball.
They did. She's not playing the point guard spot. She's settling in as more of a wing, a spot-up shooter, and, crucially, an improving defender. She's finding her role by simplifying her game.
And the comparison being made now is to her own teammate, Ava Hayden.
The Ava Hayden trajectory.
I like that.
If you remember, Hayden went from being an end-of-the-bench player to a key starter.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen overnight. It was a slow burn until suddenly it wasn't.
Right. I remember Hayden really popped during the Big Ten tournament last year. It felt like she came out of nowhere, but she'd been building that whole time, just under the radar.
Exactly. And the prediction in the source material is that Deal is on that exact same path. By the time the tournament rolls around, we could be seeing Addie Deal playing 20-plus minutes a game, providing that same kind of spark that Hayden did.
And she's starting to eat into the rotation now.
She is, which, that actually leads us to a bit of a conflict on the roster.
Yes. The rotation wars. Because you can't play everyone. It's a zero-sum game, right? If Addie Deal is rising, someone else's minutes have to be falling.
It's the brutal math of basketball minutes. And right now, the battle seems to be between Kylie Forbach and Taylor McCabe.
And the contrast between these two players, based on our sources, couldn't be more stark. Let's start with Forbach. The description being thrown around was Lexi Hull light.
which is a massive compliment if you follow the WNBA.
It is.
Lexi Hall, for the Indiana Fever, she made a name for herself not by scoring 20 points a game, but just by being an absolute pest.
A chaos agent.
A total chaos agent. Feuerbach is being described as a defensive playmaker rather than a lockdown stopper. She doesn't shut one person down, she breaks up plays. She gets in passing lanes, she tips balls, she creates that havoc that leads to easy buckets in transition.
The source notes she's obviously not as good as Hall yet, but she fits that archetype.
Exactly.
Okay, so you have the defensive playmaker in Feuerbach. Then on the other side, you have Taylor McCabe. What's the knock on her?
The criticism is quite pointed, and it's that she doesn't dive on loose balls.
Oof. That's the kind of thing that drives a coach insane.
It is. It signals a mindset issue, a hustle issue. And the thing is, Jan Jensen, the coach, she historically loves playing her seniors. There's a loyalty factor there. But performance is forcing her hand.
And McCabe's performances.
She's struggling with her shooting, which is supposed to be her primary asset. And if you're a shooter who isn't making shots and you aren't diving on the floor for those 50-50 balls,
You become a liability.
you do. So Deal is coming for those minutes.
It seems inevitable.
The prediction is that by the end of the season, Deal will have completely overtaken McCabe in the rotation. But can we stick with Feuerbach for a second?
Please.
Because that Lexi Hall comparison, it actually has draft implications for her too.
Really? Is she on the WNBA radar? I hadn't heard that.
Speculatively, yes. The source suggests she is worth a third-round flyer pick. And again, it goes back to this weak draft class.
Right.
If you're a WNBA GM, do you draft another guard who needs the ball to score but isn't elite at it? Or do you draft a player like Feuerbach who can come in, play defense, break up plays, and fits a very specific utility role?
You're drafting for a job not just for general talent, the Lexi Hull role.
Precisely. She could make a roster over a higher drafted second-round pick simply because she has a translatable WNBA skill set. That's defense and hustle. Every team needs that energy off the bench.
That is fascinating. So this whole roster is just evolving in real time. But all of this, the roster, the rotation, the good vibes, it's all about to be tested. Because looking at their schedule, there is a storm coming.
The gauntlet. There is literally no other way to describe it.
Walk us through this stretch. This is, what, 3 games?
A critical 3-game stretch: Maryland, Ohio State, and South Carolina.
Wow. That is not a fun week. That is a week that gives coaches ulcers.
It is a season-defining week. And the math on this is really interesting when you start looking at tournament seeding. There's a best case and a worst case scenario that are just miles apart.
Okay, let's start with the dream. Give me the happy path where everything goes right for Iowa.
Scenario A, the dream. Iowa somehow manages to win all 3 of those games. They beat Maryland, they beat Ohio State, and they shock South Carolina.
Which would be a massive upset.
Massive. And then for the rest of the year, let's say they only lose 2 games total. Maybe they drop one to a really tough UCLA team on the road.
If they do all that,
Yeah.
where do they land in March?
They become a top 8 seed in the country. Potentially, they could grab a number 1 or a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Wow.
That is the path to the Final Four. That means you are hosting games, you get the favorable bracket, you are in the driver's seat.
Okay, that sounds amazing. But let's look at the other side of that coin. What's scenario B? The slot.
Scenario B, they lose to UCLA, they lose one of the big 3. Let's say they lose to South Carolina. And then the trap game happens. They drop a game they shouldn't to someone like Michigan.
Michigan is always tricky on like a Tuesday night in February.
Always. If that happens, the floor just completely falls out. They drop from that elite top tier all the way down to the 11 to 17 seed range.
That is a massive swing. I mean, we're talking about the difference between hosting the first 2 rounds and fighting for your life on the road against a really tough mid-major.
The margin for error is razor thin. One bad loss to Michigan changes the entire complexion of their postseason.
So let's talk about that postseason viability. Let's say they survive the gauntlet. What is the actual ceiling for this team? Is a Final Four run actually possible?
It's not impossible. The talent is there. But there is one major caveat: a final boss level that they probably cannot defeat.
Let me guess. It's a team from Connecticut.
It is UConn. The source is very, very clear on this. UConn is on a different level this year.
So if Iowa draws UConn,
It's likely over.
Yeah.
The stylistic matchup, the talent gap, the coaching, it's just too much to overcome.
okay, so the strategy is avoid UConn at all costs. What about the other giants? Can they beat a South Carolina, a Texas, an LSU?
This is where it gets spicy. The source views those other teams as beatable giants.
Calling South Carolina beatable is a bold take. Their defense is suffocating.
It is, but the argument is about scoring. South Carolina and Texas are defensive juggernauts, absolutely. They will grind you to dust, but they don't always score enough points to guarantee a win. They can go cold offensively. And if Iowa's offense is clicking, if they're hitting threes, they can outscore them. It becomes a math problem that Iowa can actually win.
And what about LSU?
Inconsistent. They have garbage games mixed in with brilliant ones. You just don't know which LSU team is going to show up on any given night.
So the strategy for Iowa is clear.
It is. You fight like hell for a top 4 seed. That gets you into the Sweet 16 probably. And then you just pray to the basketball gods that you are not in UConn's region of the bracket.
Simple enough, right? Just dodge the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport.
Simple in theory, incredibly stressful in practice. But hey, that's March Madness for you.
It is. So that's the current team. But looking ahead, the deep dive isn't just about what's happening now, it's about the future. And we have a segment we like to call the Fantasy GM.
Oh, I love this part. Put me in the front office, give me the phone, I'm ready.
Okay, so here's the sales pitch. Iowa is hot right now. They're a top 10 team, and the eyes factor is huge. You get more visibility playing for Iowa than almost anywhere else.
That legacy from the Caitlin Clark era, it lingers. The TV cameras are still there. The fan base is still absolutely rabid.
Exactly. And you've got this great supporting cast ready to go. You've got Ava Hayden to work the two-man game. Addie Deal is on the rise. You have Chit-Chat Sunishi providing spacing. McKenna Warnock doing all the dirty work.
It's a plug-and-play situation for a star.
It is. So, if you are the Iowa GM, who are you calling first when the transfer portal opens?
Okay, our analysis identified 2 specific targets. First up, Addie Brown from Iowa State.
Ooh, poaching from the in-state rival. I like it. That's aggressive.
You have to be. The source opinion on Addie Brown is that she is borderline lottery pick level talent.
Wow.
She is that good. She has the size, the skill, the basketball IQ.
So what's the pitch to get her to leave Ames for Iowa City?
The scenario is simple. If for any reason she wants out, if she's unhappy or just wants a bigger national stage, Iowa needs to be on the phone immediately. You pitch the fit. You pitch the potential of that two-man game with Ava Hayden. You tell her, come here, play in this system, and we turn you into a lottery pick.
You show her the Hannah Stuckey development tape.
You show her the tape, exactly.
Okay, so that's target number 1, ambitious. Who is target number 2?
This one is an even bigger swing. Hannah Hidalgo from Notre Dame.
Hannah Hidalgo. Okay, now we're just aiming for the absolute stars.
Why not? Look,
Yeah.
Iowa can't compete with the highest NIL money. They can't match a USC or an LSU. They don't have those deep, oil money pockets.
Right, so the pitch has to be different.
It has to be. You're not selling money, you're selling legacy and exposure.
Go on. What's the hook?
The pitch is draft stock. You call it up and you say, do you want to be the #1 overall pick in the WNBA draft? Because if you stay where you are, you're a star. If you come to Iowa, you are the star. The visibility that Iowa offers is completely unique. It is the platform you need to boost your draft stock into the stratosphere.
It's the Caitlin Clark effect. Even without Caitlin Clark, you come here, you become a household name.
Exactly. The infrastructure for creating a megastar is still in Iowa City. You use that to recruit the highest end talent, the ones who care about their legacy and their draft position even more than a quick NIL check.
That is a compelling pitch. We make legends here. But before we wrap this up, we need to zoom out one last time. We've talked about seniors, transfers, the current roster. What about the broader landscape of college basketball, specifically this year's freshman class?
Yeah, it's a bit of a sobering reality check. The source material drops a pretty hot take here. It says this year's freshman class is not remotely close to last year's class.
I mean, last year gave us Juju Watkins, it gave us Hannah Hidalgo. We were spoiled. We saw freshmen walking in on day 1 and dropping 30 points.
We were incredibly spoiled. We had instant superstars this year. We lack those instant stars. The impact just isn't there across the board.
Are there specific names that are maybe underperforming the hype?
Well, the source calls out Jazzy Davidson at USC. It calls her maybe the most overrated player in college right now.
Ouch. That is a stinging review.
It is. Now, there's important context. She's being forced to play point guard, which is not her natural position at all. She could be fantastic in a year or two when she settles into her natural spot on the wing, but right now, the impact isn't matching the 5-star hype.
What about the freshman of the year conversation? Feels really quiet this year.
It's very quiet. You have Kennedy Smith, and the source probably means the player from Quinnipiac who is in the conversation for Freshman of the Year, but she averages something like 8 points a game and doesn't even start for her team.
8 points a game for the potential National Freshman of the Year. That tells you everything you need to know about this class.
It really does. There are no Juju Watkins in this group. There's no one performing at the level of even a Silas Swords or an Olivia Olson from last year. It is, frankly, a down year for rookies.
Which, to bring it all the way back to our main topic, that actually helps a team like Iowa.
It absolutely does. If the new talent coming into the league isn't transcendent, it puts a premium on experience, on system, on player development.
All things Iowa has in spades right now.
Exactly. They aren't relying on some freshman savior to come in and save the day because there aren't any freshman saviors this year.
So let's synthesize all of this. Iowa has successfully pivoted. They survived the post-Clark hangover, which is a huge accomplishment in itself. They are a legitimate, dangerous top 10 team.
They've found new stars in Stulik and Hayden. They have a great redemption story happening with Addie Deal. They have an identity. And that is the hardest thing to find after a legend leaves.
And here is the final thought I want to leave everyone listening with today. The source explicitly stated that if the tournament started today, Iowa would be a 3 seed. But they have a non-zero chance of beating Maryland and making a real deep run.
And that leads to the really big question, doesn't it?
It does. If Iowa can survive this gauntlet, if they come out of the South Carolina and Ohio State games still standing tall, we need to stop asking, who is the next Caitlin Clark? And maybe start asking, is Iowa the new UConn?
That is the question. Because that margin for error is so slim, you have to remember, one bad loss to Michigan, and they could drop from a number 2 seed contender all the way down to a number 17.
The next few weeks will define the entire post-Clark era, and we are absolutely going to be watching.
And we certainly will.